Sam, you were at Cobham on Friday with Jose, and can you explain to us, because he does two sort of press conferences, doesn't he? He does the broadcast media and then the written press. So what happened in both?
Well, it was quite clear that at the start that he was not going to talk extensively about Dr. Carneiro and John Fern, the head physiotherapist, who have been taken off bench duties. What happens is that the cameras pack up after they do their broadcast section of the press conference, and the newspapers talk to him off camera. So Andy Burton from Sky got, I think, one answer out of him, and then it was moved on. He got quite, he was pushed, let's say, a little bit harder by us newspaper journalists, and at one point he got up to walk out, and it was, I suppose, when you know, it's one of those sort of moments where you think, well, once you're out of your chair, you're probably going to leave the room. But actually, he stopped just short of the door and was persuaded to come and sit down again. I have to say, I don't think a lot of what he said added up. He was very clear that his medical staff have been told that the priority is, if a player goes down, it's not about what the manager wants, it's not even about what the referee wants. If they think their player is in danger, they go on. And so, taking that into consideration, the obvious question was, well, why have you canned, you know, Fern and Carneiro for at least the Manchester City game? And he wouldn't answer that. So look, there's obviously a major row has gone on. He's upset about something, and I think the question that the papers are asking today is whether there's a wider malaise, whether the fact they haven't signed anyone this summer, whether they've had quite a poor start, they look undercooked. I know we're only, you know, really 2 games, 1 league game into the season, but the Community Shield as well. And whether that's all playing into it. I have to say, this kind of theory that Jose's this genius who's deflecting attention from the draw against Swansea, I don't believe that. I don't think anyone at Chelsea wanted this row. But once their manager made his move, they felt that they had to back him, and they now find themselves in a very difficult situation. Every major medical body who has an interest in this over the last week has come out and said that Eva Carneiro and John Fern did the right thing. And bearing that in mind, Jose Mourinho did not explain why he's made this decision. So
is there a wider malaise?
Well, I think there might be now. I mean, you mentioned Mike Calvin's piece there about this might come back to haunt him. I feel that you know, he has made a big mistake here, and I think I don't go with the idea that there's sexism involved. I mean, I think it's unfortunate, deeply unfortunate for Chelsea and for football that one of the highest profile women in our game, probably the only high profile woman, has been treated like a child and humiliated on the touchline. But then so was John Fern. So I don't particularly go with the sexism thing. As I say, I think that's deeply unfortunate for the image of English football. I do think at the heart of it, as Sam was alluding to, is this uneasy relationship that there is between a club and its medics, and we've seen that in the past. I think it was 2013 when Hugo Lloris was knocked unconscious at Spurs against Everton and demanded to go back on, and was backed in that by AVB, as it was at the time, against the advice of the medics. That was a big row. We've sort of revised our concussion protocols now. But nevertheless, when you get a situation when a referee is beckoning medics on and the manager is livid because they go on, whatever he said at the press conference, what kind of message does that send to medics? It sends a message that if you are assiduous in your job, in carrying out your duties, you may face demotion. I mean, what kind of message is that to send? Particularly when we're in a situation now, George, where people are taking, I know this is not a concussion issue, but where people are becoming aware of how important these medical issues are, and the repercussions that they can have for players in later life. You really need your manager and your medics to be on the same page here, and clearly at Chelsea they're not.
Amy Lawrence is particularly good on the sexism sort of side of the story today in the papers, isn't she? But I just wonder, John, the columnists are having a dig today. Does that mean the day-to-day boys are a bit wary of Jose? Does he have huge influence over the media?
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of people think that, that the media is favourable to Jose because, let's be honest, day to day, I think he does, more often than not, serve up back-page gold. But it's not necessarily good news, and I think this week the papers have been brutal, and rightly so. You know, the coverage I think he's had is very negative, and I think, I mean, I really particularly like Andy Dunn's column because, I mean, he's talking about this third season syndrome. And it does remind me so much of his first spell in charge at Chelsea, because don't forget, of course, he'd had a row then with one of the former doctors, Dr. Fraser, and sort of kind of, I don't think all was well, particularly there. He was unhappy, wasn't he, about sort of Arjen Robben's continual injuries. Look, working for Jose Mourinho must be very, very difficult. I felt then that, I mean, also, he of course let Gallas go, much against his wishes, he reminded us at the time, to Arsenal. So I do think there's certain similarities. If I didn't know better, if he hadn't signed this contract until 2019, I would say Jose's on the brink, really.